We are on the record. The time on the video monitor is 9:23 a.m. Here begins Volume 1, Video Number 1, in the deposition of Craig Williams, in the matter of DBT Yuma versus Yuma County Airport Authority, in the Superior Court of the State of Arizona, in and for the County of Yuma. Case number S1400CV2010-1309. Today's date is April 19, 2012. Our court reporter is Jerry Koash. My name is John Bogus, certified videographer representing Koash & Koash. This video deposition is taking place at 268 South 1st Avenue, Yuma, Arizona, 85364. Counsel, please identify yourselves and state whom you represent.
I'm Darrell Williams. I represent the plaintiffs.
Paul Gerding Jr. representing the defendants.
Would the court reporter please swear in the witness?
Sir, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
What is your full name?
Pardon?
What is your full name?
Just one moment. Can we identify who's in the room for the record?
It's on the record. I mean, the court reporter's got it.
Who are these gentlemen over here?
This is Carlos Gutierrez, who works at my firm, and that's Tim Berger, my client.
Is Mr. Berger going to be the corporate representative for the plaintiffs? We're going to invoke the rule we don't want multiple witnesses sitting in the depositions throughout every depot.
Would you please state your name?
I'm asking a question, counsel.
I'm not answering your question. Would you please state your name?
So you're not identifying him as your corporate representative?
I'm not answering your question, Mr. Gerding.
Then
Would
we
you?
want Mr. Berger to be excluded from the deposition.
He's not going to be. Would you
I'll have to
please?
call the court. Don't speak.
Would you please state your name?
Don't speak. We're invoking the rule. I'm not going to have multiple witnesses sitting through every deposition. He's a witness in this case. He's been identified as a witness in this case. I'm perfectly happy to have Mr. Berger sit through every deposition.
Well, at the next deposition, if someone else appears, why don't you invoke the rule then?
I want to know if he's going to be identified as a representative for the parties.
I don't know.
Otherwise, he's a witness in this case and he shouldn't be here.
Well, no, he can be here. He can read the deposition transcript. He can watch it on the video. And so, irrespective, the rule doesn't apply to this type of proceeding. So, let's proceed.
Okay. Then we've cautioned you that he's your representative as far as you're going forward today.
Would you please state your name?
Hold on. I just want to straighten this out. We disagree. I believe the rule does take effect. I believe we are allowed to limit who's going to be in the deposition. I'm perfectly happy to have Mr. Berger here. Mr. Williams will be the corporate representative for the defendants through every deposition. He'll sit in. I don't care who you bring in. I just don't want to have multiple witnesses sitting through the depositions.
Would you please state your full name?
So, where are we with regards to an understanding?
I want to proceed with my deposition.
Okay, then answer the question.
I'm not answering your question, Mr. Gerding.
Well, we have a dispute. Let's call the court.
You want to recess to call the court?
I want to recess because I want a ruling with regards to whether or not we're going to have multiple witnesses sit through every deposition, or whether we're going to have an individual corporate representative sitting through the deposition, which you know is a rule for depositions.
I don't think that's a rule for deposition, but irrespective, why don't you wait until the next depositions and see who's sitting here and then raise an issue, okay?
Okay, we're going to allow you to have Mr. Berger to go forward now as a corporate representative. We're not going to allow other corporate representatives to come in. Go forth at your own peril.
Please state your full name, Mr. Williams.
Craig Wilford Williams,
Where do you live?
in Yuma.
How long have you lived there?
About 5.5 years.
Why did you leave San Angelo?
Family issues, and I got tired of working with the municipality there. In San Angelo, the airport was owned and operated by the city of San Angelo, so I was a city employee. It became onerous working with city government, and finally I decided to seek employment elsewhere. I liked doing airport director work, so I looked for another airport director job. Found one here, and
How did you find it?
there's an organization called AAAE, American Association of Airport Executives. They have a website, and they're well respected in the industry, and most airports, when they're looking for an airport director job, advertise them there. And so I found it through there, was picked up by a headhunter firm, and presented to the local board, came out here to interview, was accepted, and then started here in October of 2006. Been here ever since.
As the director of the airport?
As the airport director.
The Yuma County Airport Authority is, actually it's an agency of the Yuma County government, is it
That's
not?
correct. It's an independent public agency.
What is your interaction with anyone at the county so far as any activities having to do with the airport is concerned?
On a routine but not frequent basis, I will either meet with or speak to Robert McKells, who's the county administrator. Before him, I did the same thing with Mr. Garcia, and 2 to 3 times a year, I will brief the Board of Supervisors on airport activities, and just kind of a general briefing.
What is the purpose of the general briefing from your perspective with the County Board of Supervisors 2 or 3 times a year?
It's to essentially reassure them of what's going on at the airport. It's my understanding that previously there was not a smooth flow of information between the agencies here in town, and so the board had directed me to make sure that was not the case in the future, and so we just go up there and give them an informational brief.
And when you say the board had directed you, to which board did you refer?
The Yuma County Airport Authority Board of Directors.
Do you in any respect answer to the Board of Supervisors of Yuma County?
No.
Do they have any control or responsibilities to give you direction?
No.
Can they fire you?
No.
Can the Board of Directors of the Yuma County Airport Authority fire you?
Yes.
You're answerable to them.
Yes.
Is the Yuma County Airport Authority Board of Directors answerable to anyone?
They are answerable to themselves. They're an elected position, and they in turn are answerable to the public.
Who elects them, the members of the Yuma County Airport Authority Board?
The members are elected from candidates chosen from the public, recruited from the public, and then the board members themselves vote on those candidates to elect directors to the board.
So there are no responsibilities that the Yuma County Airport Authority has to anyone really other than themselves?
I would not put it that way.
How would you put it?
The members of the community, the members of the board are also members of the community, and are very responsive to the community itself. And so whenever there's a concern from anyone, they respond quickly to make sure that the needs of the community are met. Their charter that created them gave them the responsibility of managing the airport for the benefit of the community. And so I would say they are responsible to the community.
Who can fire them?
I would guess in a exceptional circumstance, the county could rescind their lease. I think there's a clause in the lease that says if you don't do the things that you're supposed to do as identified in the lease, the county could take steps to revoke that lease.
Well, that wasn't quite my question, Mr. Williams.
Oh, sorry.
My question was, who can get rid of one of the members of the board of the Yuma County Airport Authority?
The other board members.
So they're really not directly answerable to anyone other than themselves. Would that be correct?
Foreign foundation.
I hear what you're saying, I just wouldn't put it that way. I mean, they are answerable to the community, and they're very responsive to the community.
When I think of answerable, I mean, is there anybody in the community who could say, let's have a vote and fire that board member?
No, there's not.
Is there anybody at Yuma County who could say, let's have a vote and fire that board member?
Anybody in the community or anyone on the Board of Supervisors could talk to the other board members and say, I think you have a problem here, you need to, get rid of that board member. And so they have that ability, but they would not have the ability to say, I am ordering you to do this.
So your answer is no. No one on the Board of Supervisors could exercise any control over the board of the Yuma County Airport Authority.
They cannot order them to do it, but they certainly have influence over them.
Same influence that a member of the public would have.
Yes.
No more than a member of the public.
I would say that's true, other than the fact that they're members of the Board of Supervisors, so by nature their voice is going to carry a little more weight. But to date, I have not seen any member of the Board of Supervisors ever take that kind of initiative.
What do you understand is your responsibility as the airport director at the Yuma County Airport Authority?
My job is to ensure that we're in compliance with our Part 139 obligations, that we carry out our grant assurances, to apply for grants, to participate in the strategic planning for the future of the airport, to manage airport personnel, to manage our relationship with outside organizations, to work with MCS Yuma.
MCSU means?
Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. We are on a joint use airfield, and so they're an important partner with us to establish and maintain good relationships with all of our other partners. Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation, Greater Yuma Port Authority, the county, the city, and those types of organizations. And then to provide customer service to all of our customers, which includes all the above.
You said your partners a moment ago. You talked about the Greater Yuma Chamber of Commerce, I guess, and the county and the city, et cetera. Did you use partner in what sense? My own philosophy is that customer service is our primary objective. Everybody is our customer and everybody is our partner. All of our tenants are our partners. MCS is Marine Corps Air Station Yuma is our partner. Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation. I mean, it's you are successful by establishing relationships, partnerships, however you want to call it. We work very closely with everyone to achieve success. Who is Andrea Lopez?
She's my executive assistant.
Has she been your executive assistant throughout the period of time that you have been the airport director?
No, she came in after about a year.
I placed a document on the screen. This is YCAA 001146. This is, I guess, a strategy meeting email dated January 22, 2009. Looks to me like this is from Andrea Lopez to Craig Williams. Would that be correct?
Yes.
The next page of this, which is YCAA 001147, talks about a call to order of the Yuma County Airport Authority Board of Directors. And I will tell you that your name appears on this every once in a while. Are you familiar with minutes like this?
Yes. I'm trying to see what this is for. It doesn't have the date and time.
Well, if we go to the first page, of this document, you will see that it is a strategy meeting of January 22, 2009, and this is an attachment
Okay,
to that.
okay.
This attachment is what is this, and why is it that Ms. Lopez is sending you something like this, I guess is my question.
Ms. Lopez, Andrea, takes the minutes of the board meetings, and she creates the first draft and then emails them to me, and that appears that's what this is. I then take those and go through them, edit them, and then publish them on the internet in draft form for the board president to, or in the case of a strategy meeting, to be approved by the chairman and then signed off on. And so what you're looking at there is the first draft.
Is it typically in your experience that you modify Ms. Lopez's draft
Yes,
minutes?
yes,
Is it routine for you to do so?
yes.
This particular document provides on page 3, which is YCAA 001148, it says, because of the recent purchase by Luxair of Betco and the stated concern of lack of competition, do we build hangars or ramp space? Do you remember a discussion like that back in January of 2009?
Can you go back a couple pages? Was this January?
I believe so.
Go back one more.
I'll put the front
Yeah, the front cover on.
cover on
The
that.
one before that.
I've now got on the screen
120, okay, so January 22nd. Okay, thank you.
I've now got on the screen YCAA 001146 and YCAA 001148. My question is, looking at YCAA 001148, do
Okay.
you remember a discussion in approximately January 2009 about the lack of competition on the airport?
Yes,
Were you concerned about the lack of competition at the airport?
Yes.
And by you, I mean you, Mr. Craig Williams, the director.
yes.
Why?
At this time, if I've got my timing right, oh yeah, in fact it says there, Luxair had purchased Betco. Betco, and let me just back up a minute. Just before this, we had 3 FBOs at the airport. One of them was CareFlight, one of them was Betco, and one of them was Luxair. Luxair purchased Betco. In doing so, they tied up most of the ramp space on the airport as a function of their lease. CareFlight had a very small ramp that they could operate from, and CareFlight had asked if they would be allowed to extend their ramp to the area behind what was then called the JMAR hangar. They felt constrained and unable to grow their business because of lack of ramp space. And so they were a popular provider, and and yet they couldn't grow. So that was, and I agreed with that, and that was the concern.
The concern is that with Luxair buying the Betco operation,
Yes.
CareFlight couldn't operate?
CareFlight could not. CareFlight could operate. They were operating very well. But they could not expand their operation because they were constrained by ramp space. I don't know the dimensions of their ramp space, but they have a relatively small piece of real estate on the airport where airplanes could park. All of the rest of the available ramp space was leased by Luxair, and so, in other words, CareFlight would not be able to go service a customer on a Luxair ramp. As a consequence, because of the nature of their service, which was popular, their ramp space filled up, and they could not expand their reach to new customers, and so they wanted more ramp space.
Well, why did the purchase of Luxair of Betco change CareFlight's situation in any respect?
Why did it change? I would say it was I don't think that actual purchase changed anything like from day to night. But what we were seeing was a gradual shift in market share from the combination of Luxair and Betco to CareFlight. In other words, CareFlight, with a much smaller ramp area to work with, was steadily gaining market share. When Luxair and Betco merged, that market share continued to grow. I don't know if I answered your question.
Your answer was puzzling to me because it seems that before and after Luxair's acquisition of Betcor, CareFlight's relative position on the airport remained unchanged. It still had the same amount of ramp space. It still was constrained by its ramp and where it could grow because the other property was owned either by Luxair after it bought Betco or by Luxor and Betco before Luxair purchased.
I see what you're saying. However, prior to that, there were 3 FBOs, and so Betco could and did compete with Luxair. CareFlight could and did compete with both of them. Once Luxair bought out Betco, the concern was, okay, they now have the vast lion's share of the ramp space. And yet, because CareFlight is constrained, Luxair really doesn't have to worry about providing customer service. Luxair can kind of sit there and offer whatever service they desired, and if it wasn't what the customers wanted, the customers still would not have an opportunity to go to a different provider because CareFlight's ramp was full. And so that's the lack of competition I'm talking about. If Luxair has to compete through customer service with Betco, who owns a pretty equal share of ramp space, then both of them in competing are going to be giving better customer service. But if one guy owns 90% of the ramp space and CareFlight can't go after those customers, even though those customers may be dissatisfied, then you've got a lack of competition.
You have always then, as the airport director, been concerned that there be competition to help the customers get what they need and want.
Yes, my overriding concern is that customers get what they need. Customer service is very important to me. I think competition helps in the form of customer service. Yes.
You were the guy who went and closed down Luxair in October of 2009, correct?
Yes.
Foundation.
Sorry.
What was the state of competition as of the day you closed down Luxair?
Form. Foundation.
I'm not sure what you're asking me.
How many FBO providers were there on the field as of, say, November 1, 2009?
There was one.
Was that a concern to you?
Yes, it was.
Why?
Again, competition. We wanted 2 FBOs on the field. That was important to the board, and it was important to me that we have 2 providers.
How many are there on the field today?
1. Well, there's 1 fuel service FBO on the field today.
Well, to be an FBO, you have to provide fuel service, do you not?
There's, in a sense, yes, but there's different kinds of FBOs. But I don't think that's the question you're asking. We have 1 fuel service provider on the airport today.
Well, you and I have been flying a lot of years. I've been flying more than 30, so have you, correct?
Yes.
I wouldn't consider an entity on the field that doesn't sell me gas an FBO, would you?
Form. Foundation.
I would consider someone on the field who's selling gas to be an FBO, yes.
And you as a pilot, Mr. Williams, wouldn't consider someone on the field who doesn't sell gas an FBO, would you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I would. In our minimum standards, we state the different kinds of FBOs. In other words, there can be an aircraft maintenance FBO. There can be an aircraft sales FBO. And so we acknowledge those kinds of FBOs. But from the pilot's perspective, most of the time, you're looking for somebody to buy gas from. And I think that's kind of the common perception.
I'm going to have the court reporter read back the question.
Okay.
And I want you to answer my question,
Okay.
which you apparently missed some words on that. So just listen to the question,
Okay.
and then answer the question that I asked, please.
Okay.
And you as a pilot, Mr. Williams, wouldn't consider someone on the field who doesn't sell gas to be an FOB, would you? FBO, would you?
Form. Go ahead.
The answer to my question is yes, I would. An aircraft maintenance provider would be an FBO.
So you as a pilot, if you fly into a field and there's a maintenance provider on there but doesn't sell gas, you think they're an FBO as a pilot?
Form.
Yes, as a pilot, I would say to myself, that guy is obviously an aircraft maintenance provider.
Well, I would agree that a guy who has a hangar and provides maintenance is an aircraft maintenance provider. My question is, if you fly into that field and there's a guy giving maintenance in a hangar that doesn't sell and won't sell you gas because he doesn't have any, would you consider him an FBO as a pilot?
Foundation. Form.
And my answer to the question is yes. And the reason I say that is at my last airport, I had 2 FBOs that sold fuel, and I had 1 FBO that provided aircraft maintenance. And I identified them all as FBOs. And we have the same thing here.
I know that you did that as the airport director. My question is, if you are a pilot flying into a field, do you as the pilot think that that's an FBO that does maintenance but doesn't sell you gas?
Form.
As I said earlier, the general concept of an FBO from a pilot's perspective is that they sell fuel. I totally understand that. I may think the way I do just because I'm more involved in the airport management side.
You would agree with me, would you not, Mr. Williams, that most pilots think an FBO's got to sell gas?
Foundation. Form.
Yes, I think that is the common perception.
So using the pilot's perspective, what you've got at the Yuma Airport right now is one FBO. Correct.
Well,
Same objection.
yeah, I think from the pilot's perspective, we have one. I just don't think of it that way. We have one fuel service provider.
Do you know what DBRT stands for? That's the name of the entity that leased property from you back in August of 2008. Here's a copy of the lease, PL000900. DBRT Yuma FBO LLC. What is that?
DBRT, I believe, stands for, I forget what the D is, Burger, it's the initials of the four principles of entity that makes up DBRT.
On the screen is this sublease agreement and license agreement between the airport authority and DBRT Yuma FBO. Why did you enter into this lease with them?
Prior to Luxair coming, and DBRT is also used synonymously with Luxair. Prior to Luxair coming, we had Sunwestern Flyers on the airport, which was owned by Mr. John Ewing. Mr. John Ewing came to us and said he was selling his operation to Luxair. We met with the principals of Luxair and did a deal with them to essentially buy out the Sunwestern lease, and we gave them a new lease, and the goal was that they were going to build a GA terminal on the airport and provide the FBO services that Sunwestern Flyers used to provide.
And when you said GA terminal, you meant?
The airport for a long time, the community for a long time, has wanted the airport to have a very nice general aviation terminal.
So GA means general aviation.
General aviation.
The idea then, when you entered into these series of DBRT leases, and I think there were 3, correct?
I think there were more than 3. There was, I think there were 4.
Well, I think there are 3 DBRT and 1 DBT. Do you have any recollections? You're sitting here.
I believe, let me see, there was 5 premises. 2 of them were together. And so, as I recall, and I'm not positive, as I recall, we started out with 4, and then later we added premises 6. And that may have been the DBT, but again, I'm not positive. I have to go back and look at it.
Is it correct to say that the idea was that you were going to have whoever these Luxair entities are build an FBO? Would that be correct?
Foundation.
To build the GA terminal, are you talking?
Well, general aviation terminal, is that it?
Yes.
Now, I've placed on the screen PL000900 and PL00050. And I did that because you mentioned premises 6, so I brought that lease up, which is PL0050, and that's with DBT, you
Yes.
it not. So now, is that refresh your recollection that there were 3 leases with DBRT entities and 1 with a DBT entity?
I mean, I may be incorrect. I thought there were 4 original leases with the premises 6 being the 5th. I could be wrong.
Okay, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Was the idea that whatever these Luxair entities were, we're going to build a general aviation terminal?
Yes.
Where is that general aviation terminal today?
The one that Lux Air was going to build was never built. When we evicted Lux Air, we took the Bedco hangar and remodeled it ourselves, and that is now what is called the General Aviation Terminal.
It's the one that says Millionaire on it.
That's correct.
It is not what you would call a general aviation terminal in the common parlance of aviation flying, is it?
Foundation form.
I would say, yes, that's exactly what it is.
Isn't it an FBO?
Yes, it is an FBO. However, I mean, when you're talking about Lux Air coming in and building their GA terminal, that GA terminal was also the FBO.
So it is correct then that what you thought Lux Air was going to build was simply a building for its operations.
Foundation.
No, not at all. The maybe in a sense, but what we were trying to get is when I say GA terminal, my concept, and I believe the concept of the board, was that there would be a very nice facility that could be used by the public, that when important visitors and regular pilots come through the FBO, they don't just walk into an old room that's got a fuel desk, they do the transaction, they walk out. We wanted a nice facility for the public to use. And that's what we wanted. We had never had anything like that. And the public and the board wanted that. Now, to me, the GA terminal is a nice FBO facility.
How did you happen upon Millionaire to be a tenant at the airport?
After we evicted Lux Air, I received a phone call, and I can't document the times or the people, but I received a phone call, I believe, from Scott Freeman, although it may have been from Chris Freeman, identifying him as a FBO. I knew the name Millionaire, said they were interested in coming to Yuma. We started working with them. I want to say our first conversations were in December of 2009, and we talked to them until we signed a lease with them, and I believe their lease was in April by the time we got around to signing a lease with them. That would have been 2010.
So what happened to CareFlight?
Millionaire bought the fueling operation from Dr. Stamper.
Is that because Dr. Stamper wanted to sell it?
Dr. Stamper is the owner of CareFlight.
And he wanted to sell that?
Foundation form.
I assume he did since he sold it to him. I don't know his state of mind.
Did you ever enter into a lease with CareFlight for the facilities that Lux Air was operating before you evicted them?
Form.
I believe we did, but I don't recall the I don't recall the exact date. I can tell you, generally speaking, if that would be good enough.
Please, give me your generally speaking recollection of whether you had a lease with CareFlight.
When we evicted Lux Air, the decision of the board because we had now lost, in doing that, we had lost the hoped for general aviation terminal that Luxair never built. And so part of the decision process was that any solution that we pursued would include renovating what was the Betco hangar, which was, when we evicted them, the Luxair FBO, renovating that building into a nice GA terminal. And the concept was to put 2 fuel desks in there, so we would have the opportunity to recruit a new FBO, and that would be a shared facility.
Well, that hasn't happened, has it?
It did just for a little while, but practically speaking, no, it never happened.
I don't believe I've ever seen a Millionaire facility or any other FBO facility that shares a fuel desk inside their facility. Have you ever seen that?
Foundation form.
Your question did not phrase the concept, what we were trying to do. I have had.
When you say we, you mean who?
The airport authority.
And is this sui juris with you, Mr. Williams, or?
I didn't hear what you said.
Was this your idea? Whose idea was it originally? Who said, this is what I think we ought to do, and then everybody votes for it?
Foundation.
I would say it was my idea to come up with and then present to the board. And there was significant discussion on the concept of having a general aviation terminal with 2 fuel providers. Some board members said yes, they had seen that, and other board members said they had never seen that.
Who said they'd seen that?
I don't recall.
That would be in the minutes, though, somewhere.
The specificity of the minutes may not include each individual's comments.
Anyway,
Yeah.
how did you get?
So but my concept was.
Let me give you a question.
Sorry.
My question is, how did you get CareFlight out of the Luxair terminal?
We did not get CareFlight out of the Luxair terminal. When Millionaire approached Dr. Stamper, I have no idea what the conversations were between them, but when Dr. Stamper sold his fueling operation to Millionaire, then CareFlight was no longer a existing entity as a refueling operation. And so I guess you would say Dr. Stamper removed his presence. I mean, he was no longer a refueling entity.
Well, I see CareFlight out there now. What are they doing?
CareFlight came to the airport initially as an air ambulance operation. When they first moved to the airport, they approached the airport authority and asked if they could have more space because they wanted to build, and this is my term, not theirs, they wanted to build a alert facility, I guess you would call it a crew facility for their air ambulance crews. We gave them a couple of options, but we didn't have space available. They subsequently went to, and part of this, I don't know the details behind it, but in the end, clearly, they went to Ron Ethington, who owned Diamond Air, which was an FBO prior to CareFlight's arrival. And they purchased his FBO in its entirety so they could take his building and then convert that into the crew facilities that they wanted. In the purchase of that, it's my understanding that they then decided to continue with the refueling operation to help finance part of that purchase price.
Why did you evict Luxair?
Because they didn't pay their rent.
Any other reason?
No.
So we're just talking about you didn't pay rent. That's it?
Well, they did not pay their rent. They did not pay their fuel flow that they owed us. And that's why we evicted them.
Had nothing to do with the fact that they had not built a general aviation terminal, did it? Or did it? Maybe it did.
It became clear to me and ultimately to the board that Luxair, who had been promising to get current on their rent for some time, was counting on financing of their bond to come up with the money to do that, and that they did not have a deal in hand. And further, it became of concern to me that there was a possibility that they would cease operations. And so I went to the board and I said, I'm very concerned. At this point in time, it appears they do not have financing in hand. There's no way they're going to be able to get their, without that financing, they're not going to be able to get their building built. And further, they're getting further and further behind on their rent. And I'm concerned that they may cease operations unexpectedly. And our primary responsibility is Part 139. We have to make sure that we've got a fuel provider for the airlines. All of these factors together made the board decide to evict them.
When was the decision made to evict them by the board?
On the strategy and executive committee meeting on October the 20th.
So if I were to read those minutes, I could see what the discussion was and who voted, et cetera.
I don't see the minutes in front of me, so.
Well, they've been claimed as privileged for some reason, so I don't have them.
Those have been disclosed.
Oh, they have?
Yes.
When did you disclose these?
They were disclosed this week, and you were forwarded copies of the board minutes for the special committee and the strategic planning committee and the committee itself, and we discovered that that was not an executive session.
Oh, well, I guess the problem is that I've been out of town all this week, and so maybe I haven't seen these.
We can have copies faxed over.
Well, let me just kind of go through some documents here and see if I can see them. Not in what you recently delivered to our office.
We'll have to take a break. At the break, we'll call to make sure that you got the disclosure. I've been informed that you have been forwarded the disclosures, which include the strategic planning committee minutes and the following executive committee minutes.
Let me just look more. I have a couple more documents to look at here.
And I've been out of town as well, but this was handled by our office.
Don't happen to know the Bates number, do you?
I can find out.
Why don't you make a call and see if you can find out.
Want to take a break?
Yeah, can we take a break?
We are off the record. The time on the video monitor is 10:26 a.m.